There is an old saying that it takes money to make money. But what people rarely tell you is that it takes a lot of money just to be poor. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, you're working hard, you're buying the cheapest options at the store, you're being frugal, and yet your bank account never seems to grow, you might be a victim of a phenomenon called the Vimes Boots Theory. Coined by the author Terry Pratchett, the theory is simple, but devastating. It explains why a person who earns $50,000 a year can actually end up spending less on the exact same lifestyle than someone earning $25,000. In the modern economy, being broke is a luxury few can actually afford. Today, we're going to look at the hidden taxes of poverty. We're going to explore why the cheap option is almost always the most expensive choice you can make. And we're going to look at the psychological and structural traps in the US and the UK that make it statistically more expensive to live at the bottom of the ladder than it is at the top. To understand why your frugality might actually be keeping you broke, we have to start with the boots. In the original theory, a character named Sam Vimes explains that a really good pair of leather boots costs $50. These boots last for years and years. A man who can afford $50 has dry feet for a decade. But a man who can only afford $10 has to buy cheap boots. They aren't waterproof. They fall apart in a season. So, over 10 years, the man with $10 spends $100 on boots, and he still has wet feet. The man who was rich enough to spend more at the start actually spent $50 less in total. This isn't just a story about footwear. This is the reality of the modern US and UK consumer market. Think about the last time you went grocery shopping. You see a 24-pack of toilet paper for $15. It's a great deal. But if you only have $5 in your pocket today, you have to buy the 4-pack for $4.50. By buying the smaller pack, you're paying nearly double the price per roll. You know it's a bad deal. You're smart enough to see the math. But the economy has placed a bulk tax on you. Because you don't have the float in your bank account to buy in bulk, you are penalized with a higher unit price every single week. Over a year, this single unit penalty can cost a household hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. But here is the first major twist. The cost of being broke isn't just about the things you buy. It's about the things you can't buy. In the US and the UK, we live in a world of annual discounts. If you can afford to pay for your car insurance, your gym membership, or your software subscriptions in one lump sum at the start of the year, you usually get 2 months for free. You get a 15% to 20% discount just for having a high bank balance. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you have to pay monthly. You pay a convenience premium on everything. You're effectively paying a 20% interest rate on your own life, simply because you don't have the cash reserves to pay up front. The system is designed to reward those who already have money with lower prices, while charging a poverty premium to those who are struggling to keep their heads above water. Then there is the late fee trap. This is where the cost of being broke becomes predatory. If you have $5,000 in your bank account and you forget to pay a utility bill, you might get a polite reminder. But if you have $5 in your account and you miss a payment, the dominoes start to fall. In the UK, a missed council tax payment can quickly lead to court summons and bailiff fees that turn a £100 debt into a £500 nightmare. In the US, an overdraft fee of $35 can be triggered by a $3 cup of coffee. You are being charged a fee for not having money. Think about the absurdity of that. The bank, an institution that literally stores money, is taking more money from the person who has the least. These fees aren't just annoying, they are a structural barrier to wealth. They keep you in a state of financial reactive mode. Instead of planning for the future, you're constantly putting out fires. You're spending all your mental energy trying to avoid a $40 penalty, which leaves you with zero energy to think about investing, career growth, or long-term goals. And that leads us to the most expensive tax of all, the time tax. Time is the only asset that is truly equal, right? Wrong. Being broke takes an incredible amount of time. If you have a reliable modern car, your commute is 20 minutes of climate-controlled peace. If you're driving a 15-year-old beater because you can't afford a better one, you spend your weekends at the mechanic. You spend your mornings crossing your fingers that the engine starts. If it doesn't, you're late for work. You lose hours of pay. You might even lose your job. If you rely on public transport in cities with underfunded infrastructure, you spend 2 hours a day commuting for a job that pays for 8. You are paying with your life force just to get to a place that pays you the bare minimum. This is the repair cycle trap. You can't afford a $5,000 car that works, so you buy a $1,000 car that breaks. Every time it breaks, it costs you $400. Within 2 years, you've spent more than the $5,000 car would have cost. But you still have a car that might not start tomorrow. You're running as fast as you can just to stay in the same place. But let's look at the psychological twist. Why do people in this trap sometimes make choices that look irresponsible to outsiders? You'll hear people criticize someone who is struggling for buying a brand name pair of sneakers or a high-end smartphone. They say, if they didn't buy that, they could save money. But they're missing the dopamine of despair. When you are trapped in the Vimes Boots cycle, when you know that no matter how much you save, you'll never afford a house and your car will probably break next week anyway, the idea of long-term saving feels like a lie. If you can't have a future, you'll take a now. A $100 pair of shoes provides a momentary sense of dignity and status in a world that is constantly trying to strip it away. It's a treat that makes a miserable existence bearable. It's not bad math. It's a survival mechanism for the soul. The economy knows this. It preys on the need for immediate relief. This is why you see payday loan shops and rent-to-own furniture stores in the poorest neighborhoods. They aren't there to help. They are there to harvest the last few dollars of people who are desperate for a sense of normalcy. They offer easy weekly payments. They make a $500 TV cost $1,500 over 2 years. And because the customer can't save the $500, they sign up for the $20 a week. They are paying a 300% poverty interest rate just to have a living room that looks like everyone else's. So, how do you break the Vimes Boots cycle? How do you stop it from being so expensive to be you? It requires a radical and painful shift in how you view value. Step 1. The war on single units. You have to find a way to buy in bulk, even if it feels impossible. This might mean teaming up with a friend or a neighbor to split the cost of a wholesale club membership. It might mean eating the exact same meal for a week so you can buy the giant bag of rice. Instead of the small boxes, you have to claw back the single unit penalty dollar by dollar. Step 2. The reliability first rule. Stop buying cheap things that have a high failure rate. This applies to clothes, tools, and especially electronics. It is better to have 3 high-quality shirts that last 3 years than 10 cheap ones that shrink and tear in 3 months. In the US and the UK, thrift shopping, or charity shops in wealthy neighborhoods, are the secret weapon here. You can buy the $50 boots for $10 if you're willing to hunt for them. You get the quality of the rich man at the price of the poor man. Step 3. The emergency buffer. This is the hardest part. You need a peace of mind fund, even just $500. This isn't for a vacation. This is anti-late fee money. It's the money that sits in your account specifically to stop a $35 overdraft fee from ever happening.